how would you bring consent into a scene where hypnosis is involved? Ooh. Okay, so here's the thing. Hypnosis is activating a part of the brain that's not entirely conscious. That can do a lot of harm. That can do a lot of damage. Okay? That's why risk-aware consensual kink is a thing, all right? Risks are involved. With hypnosis, to me, it's a pretty fucking big risk. I would never, ever, ever, ever feel safe enough with anyone to subject, to give over that much of my subconscious decision-making, thought processes, all of that. Like, I do not want anyone in that territory. No one gets in that territory. That's my personal boundary. That's my hard limit because it's very, very deep and it can do a lot of damage. But for those of you who are willing to accept the risks, I do think it can be done in a consensual way. And here's how. If we break down my definition of consent, which I'm not being biased, it's the best definition of consent I have ever heard. Consent is a completely mindful, willing, and uncoerced choice to say yes, and the ability to revoke that yes at any time without fear of repercussions. If we're looking at that definition of consent, we have basically 5 standards. We have mindful, willing, uncoerced, ability to revoke the yes, and no fear of repercussions. Those 5 aspects of consent must be in play for it to be authentic consent. So, can you go into a hypnosis situation mindfully, willingly, without being coerced, with the ability to revoke your yes, and without fear of repercussions? Yes, I do believe you can. And here is how I would go about it. For the tops wanting to lead any bottoms through something like this, I think that you need to go through like a little 5-point checklist, so to speak, with this definition of consent. So the first one being mindful. Does the bottom know exactly the cues, the commands, the triggers, etc. that will be used on them? Right? Because when we put someone into a hypnotic state, there are certain cue words or trigger words that get them to do something, behave in a certain way, things like that, right? So if you are going into a hypnotic state or leading someone through a hypnotic state, just like the aftercare thing and the crash thing that we were just talking about, if you give that person the data that they need to know to feel safe and feel like I am completely mindful, I know what to expect going into this. I know that these are going to be the programmed words. Or recording of the hypnosis, ideally with video, but there's still that level of doubt. Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you can, yeah, that would be a great fail safe, is have it recorded so that you can actually witness what happened. I think that's very, very wise, Graham. Absolutely. But I think just in the negotiation, in the discussion, you need to be talking about this. You need to be telling the bottom partner, the bottom player, here's what I'm intending to do with this scene, with this activity. Does that make sense to everyone so far? So next one, willing. Is the bottom interested, curious, excited about this? I think this one differs from most of our other scenes in BDSM in the sense that you can have a willing submissive who isn't necessarily excited for whatever scene you're about to take them through, but it's still willingness. You can have a submissive willing to yield to a punishment scene, even though they don't actually want the punishment scene. With this, I think it's a little different. I think willingness must include curiosity and excitement and interest on on the bottom player's part, because you will never be able to fully release and give someone access into that space unless you want someone to have access to that space. So that would be my second point here, is the bottom player must be, and I go on to say, uncoerced. For uncoerced, does the bottom desire this independently? Like, this isn't something that the top player is like, oh, I've been reading all this stuff and I want to try it and I want to try it on you. That might happen. I'm saying ideally, this should be something that independently is a desire on the bottom side, just for it to go as smoothly as possible. So, mindful, willing, uncoerced, does the bottom desire this independently? Revoke their yes. So, I would say give them an out before any sort of programming. So I've seen in hypnotic sessions before how you program your trigger words and things like that for whoever you're hypnotizing to do certain things, respond certain ways, whatever. But I think the first thing is you need to give them an out. You need to give them some sort of backup, like a fail-safe kind of thing. Like, when you're dealing with the subconscious, I feel you need a fail-safe, just like what Mr. Growls was saying. What are acceptable outs if speech is restricted? Then you get to like a safe gesture, little clicker, something like that. But that's up to the top and bottom player to negotiate and decide. The bottom player might not feel safe going through a hypnotic session if their speech is restricted, things like that. Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Justin, I feel like that's kind of a given. But yes, let's go ahead and say that. You, dominance, you don't want to go into any activity blindly. You don't want to go into any activity thinking that you know exactly what you're doing, and you don't. Make sure you get the proper education that you need before you play. Yes, Justin. Safety first. Safety first. So, and then let's see. Revoke the yes. Give them an out. We're already talking about this. Also, yes, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. That's essentially what I'm saying, everyone, is you want that person who's going under to feel like they still have some sort of power, some sort of autonomy. Yes, give them a fail-safe, give them a way out. Absolutely. And then finally, and I feel like this is what you all are touching on right now, as far as the no fear of repercussions, you as the bottom who's going into this, you must fully trust your top's integrity, motivations, the method, and ability to stay safe and autonomous. And I think really the key there is the top's integrity. The top's integrity. If you can trust that this person is going to access parts of my mind and my psyche, my subconscious, I need to be able to trust that they're doing so for a good reason. They're not doing so to control or manipulate or violate. I think a lot of trust has to be established between the bottom and the top in terms of integrity. That the top is doing this for good, happy, fun, pleasurable reasons, not destructive, harmful, controlling reasons.